Hello, hello.
Here we are.
I'm so excited, man. This is wow, it's Wednesday.
It's Wednesday.
Just need to take a breath. My watch told me I need to breathe, so I'm just doing what it says.
How much longer until the watches just have like a defibrillator in them and they shock you occasionally? It's just like, hey, I told you to stand up 20 minutes ago. Oh, I'm sorry. I'll do it.
Yeah. Wow. That would be like nag mode or something. That would be pretty amazing.
Yeah. Stop hitting yourself.
Little Big Brother mode.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think that's coming. So I'm sure.
Alex Masha has it right. A breath, a beer, sir. Yes, totally. But wait, is it only Tuesday? Uh-oh. I may have messed up. Oh, okay, good. Wow.
It better be Wednesday.
Yeah, I mean, like I told everyone I know that it's Wednesday, so it better be. It's now officially Wednesday, whether it's Tuesday or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, W. Shari. Nice. Good to see you. Welcome. This is a new name I haven't seen before. Cool avatar too. Agent Server. I don't know. Is that a bot? Are you a bot, Agent Server? Is that how you figure out if someone's a bot, is by asking them?
The definition of the Turing test, right? I mean, like that's
that still doesn't tell me
exactly what a bot
answer the
would
question.
say.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. W. Shari. Remind me again, W. Shari. Sorry. Is it Germany? Is that where you are?
Yeah, it's 10 p.m. Wow. Right. That's 10 p.m. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. I always have to do the math too.
Wait, Germany would be +8 for me. Saudi. Yeah. I was like, he's further east than that. So
wow.
How's the future? Is it? Yeah. Things okay still? I don't.
What do we have to look forward to? That's a legit question in this day and age.
Our teammate Tori in Japan is always a day ahead, and I constantly like, please tell me, no surprises tomorrow, right? Like we're okay. So
we really should do that. Like our colleagues in Europe and Asia should just give us an update. Hey, future talking, everything's okay so far.
Stand up, please let me know.
That's right. Yeah, I was joking with someone the other day about like, remember when murder hornets were like the worst thing we had heard of?
They're coming back, by the way.
But like I kind of miss those days. You know, things have gotten so much worse since then. So, man, this has just been
Adam,
is an unprecedented time.
Adam, have you realized that we have coworkers on the east and west of us, but we're the furthest behind in the timeline of everyone else because like by the time we have no coworkers in Hawaii or Alaska, so it's like at that point it's like Dateline. It's like, wow, we're living in the past compared to everyone else on our team.
Yeah, and we only have to learn from them and the future that they hold. So
I'm next in line at that tail end, so I'll let it.
Just give us a little heads up. Yeah,
I will.
Hey, by the way, we could also mention here we have a job posting open on our team, on the DA team for AWS in APAC.
That's right. Yeah.
Also in the future, but there is a posting. I'd have to find it again.
If you feel like moving to the future, or happen to already be from the future or in the future, I don't even know if you would be from the future. I guess you'd be in the future. Definitely think about checking that out. Did I retweet? I feel like I retweeted it. I did. One of you retweet?
I did.
Retweet Romain's?
From Romain,
okay,
yeah.
cool.
We all
Awesome.
did.
What?
We all did.
What's this? AWS recruiting advocates in Hawaii. Man, remember when we could travel to Hawaii?
I miss that so much. You have no idea. I think once everything is, I don't know, normal again, I'm gonna go there and I'm not coming back. I'm staying in Hawaii.
Yeah, that's a good call. Let's see here. Cube Jerome, can we see the replay before the live? That would be, yeah.
But then we'd get no live views.
Oh, that's
right?
a good point. Yeah. I don't know how that would happen. You would stack them up ahead of time, maybe.
I'm just not comfortable with this future business. So we're going to have to stay in the present.
W. Shari says, love the today's GIF. Was that my GIF? Was it the skydiver into the cave?
Yeah. The base jumper there going right in.
Yeah. Base jumper. Awesome. Because I was sitting there thinking, what are we really going to do? We're really going to be exploring and kind of, I
used your tweet and it inspired me to change my background. So bonus points if anyone knows what it's from.
It looks Tron-like to me, like Neutron.
It's intended to look a little Tron-like because the movie has.
It just reminds me of the game Portal, but I don't think what that is.
It's a little too animated.
Yeah,
and the green you would think NVIDIA. Yeah, that's a good one. It's Ralph Breaks the Internet was one of their backgrounds that they provided for. I keep going blurry. I don't know why my camera's doing that.
It's because you moved.
I'm getting sucked in.
Because it's 2020. We're all going blurry.
Right. This is the evolution. We'll eventually just become blurry humans. So
it's like
just prepare for it.
Back to the Future when he's fading away. Oh yeah.
My hands disappearing.
Can't play the guitar. Oh, Bon Jovi. Man.
No, he's still alive. No, Bon Jovi's still alive. You're mixing up with Van Halen. Eddie Van Halen. Not Bon Jovi. Don't take Bon Jovi from me.
Wow.
Okay.
How did I mess that up?
Do not
even knew that.
Take Bon Jovi from me. That man is a national treasure.
Hey, Adam. Brent's in the future. Maybe we don't know yet. I'm worried for what's going to happen in an hour now.
Do not take Bon Jovi from me.
I'm so sorry, Mr. Bon Jovi, for saying that. I meant Van Halen, who I also grew up loving. So that was sad news. So that sucks. All right. I don't know how to segue back to container registry from there, but let's talk container registries and how we can muck around with them and explore them and do things with them. What do you think?
But you know what? It looks like someone was new to the chat. First time they joined this channel and they're hearing us talk about Bon Jovi and his fake death. But Bon Jovi is not an AWS service. But this particular show on the AWS channels, we talk about containers. Obviously, from the name, we talk about the container ecosystem and so on. So I just wanted to make sure that I explained this is Containers from the Couch. We're on every day, noon Pacific, except Friday. Containers from the Couch.
Actually, I want to know from the chat what people think. If AWS had a Bon Jovi service, what would it do?
Oh yeah, that's a good one. Let's create that service in chat right now.
It would be a chaos service, and I'd call it Wanted, Dead or Alive. No, that's what I'm thinking.
Wow,
that's pretty good.
I can't believe you just came up with that as your first try.
I'm a big Bon Jovi fan, and that's why I was so shocked when you said.
Holy crap, that's awesome! Dead or Alive, chaos. Wow.
Yeah, my brain's working today.
Would that be monitoring, or would that actually do the?
No, it would.
I think it would. I think it would do it. It would be dead or alive.
Yeah, Chaos Monkey, same thing. Just it's
Chaos Bon Jovi.
Chaos Bon Jovi.
Chaos Jovi.
Anyway, I'm gonna create that GitHub repo right now.
Once you make the repo, it's a thing.
It's a thing.
You got to buy the domain.
Oh, on it. Just kidding.
Oh,
so
yeah,
to Brett's
nice. Yeah. Yeah.
to
We didn't
Brett's
say
point
any of
about
that.
the registry, if you missed the stream on Monday, we did set up Harbor, which is a CNCF project for running your own registry, whether you need to do that on-prem or on your local machine. I'm still running mine locally from Monday. It's killed my battery more so than Chrome does by itself, but I just didn't want to pause it all and try to restart it. So it's been running since. So we still have all the same setup from Monday, as well as we showed off some of the features of synchronizing some images and what else did we show? There was webhooks and authentication.
There was like caching.
Yeah.
You set up
a pull
some
through cache and a mirror. Yeah.
Yeah. It does some really cool stuff, and it was pretty easy to deploy.
Yeah, especially with I'm running it on Kind locally, so it's on a Kubernetes cluster, and with a Helm chart, it just does the install for me pretty much.
Nice.
So yeah, so if you missed Monday, you can go back and read some of that, and then today I want to look at how do you manage some of this stuff from a command line, because someone was pointing out, a GUI is nice, but a lot of times we want to automate these things, or we want to inspect them in other ways, and doing it in a GUI isn't the best solution for that. So there are some command line tools for registries, and that's really what I want to look at. And I was telling Brent and Adam before we signed on, I have some regrets about signing up for this because all of the tools do things pretty differently. They have common features, but their support for things like insecure registries or user authentication or whatever it might be about how to get to those registries is pretty mixed. And so it's sometimes a little hard to separate that out, but I'm going to show some tools, and we'll show where they're similar and where they're different, and then you can pick which one's going to work for you based on your environment or which registries you use and that kind of stuff.
And the way I see it, we're going to go through the pain and headache so that you don't have to, at least not as much. So that's the service that we provide here. Is there a Bon Jovi song that goes with that?
Pain as a service?
Pain as a service.
Need to think.
I don't know.
And hopefully, everyone can learn at least a couple new tools or something else they can do that maybe they couldn't before. So that's my goal.
Yeah, awesome. All right, let's get to it.
So switching over here this is our Harbor registry that we had. Like I said, I still have all the same stuff set up from before. We have these projects with different repositories in them, or I think, projects and then repositories are where they store images. And then I have a handful of different ones. And we did, on Monday, we started syncing BusyBox.
I forgot about that.
It finished it, and it actually has 100 different tags on it. So
are there literally an even 100 tags on the official BusyBox repo?
So there's 100 artifacts. I think that's all. Let me see. Let's see if I can see. I mean, here's all that. I don't think it's going to show me a count here.
Like BusyBox might.
It says 100 items.
Yeah.
So
I just wonder, that's such a round number. I just wonder, did Harbor just stop there, or maybe BusyBox actually prunes their repo?
Well, and these are tags, not versions, so they may just have 100 tags, and because they won't keep the old version of Ubuntu 14.04 or something. So if they push a new version, it's just going to be that tag.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's the basics of, we have Harbor set up. There is also the Docker registry, which is deprecated for Docker distribution, and there's a lot of other better options for running registries like Harbor. But I'm going to show off Docker registry just a little bit to get 2 registries up, mainly because it's a 1 command install. And so it's really nice. Oh, how far? Can you specify how far back in the mirror? Not with the clone for the images. You can specify tags, and let me go into it. Let's see if it shows me in the config. I don't know if it will. No. Where was that set up? Here. Inside of this piece, when you set up your application, you can have a tag pattern. So I did star, but you can have question marks for individual characters, or you can specify individual tags. So if you know the tag you want, you can take that and say, this is the one I want. Let me just take that one. So that is an option inside of this replication.
And depending on what your goals are, that actually might be like if your goal is just mirror everything that's relevant to you, maybe instead of building a mirror, build a pull through cache. And then you're always going to get whatever it is you're trying to pull. And you'll have everything that you've ever pulled, but you won't have, stuff that's older than that you don't need to pull.
Well, and just like Docker Hub, the image tags are not immutable. Like I can overwrite latest over and over and over again. And so I can never get the old latest unless I know the SHA of it. So that's kind of a important thing to specify too, is like I can't go give me latest from the last 3 months. Like I can't get that from Docker Hub unless I was locally caching that and changing the tag somehow.
Yeah, which by the way is another good reason to not depend on tags that move. So like latest, depend on hashes or something that is going to stay the same the whole time.
Exactly. If I do a Docker build based on BusyBox latest, and then someone pushes a new BusyBox latest that's broken, I'm going to get the broken one. And I, unless I specify the SHA of the actual image I want, which just like in our projects, where was that library? We can see those SHAs based on the artifact. So I have it right here, the actual SHA, but if I do a pull command like this pull command, you can see, it doesn't show the overlay. Here, let's go back over here. So by default, the pull command will give me the entire SHA of that image, not the tag from Harbor. So that's nice because I can put this image tag in my Docker file, and I always get that SHA. I don't get latest.
Exactly. So W. Shari asks, next question, would it, wow, I can't read. Is it possible to clean stale images or old images that were never pulled or some kind of condition? There you go.
Right here. Yes, you do have a garbage collection. So I can do a dry run or, anything that was untagged. It doesn't have information about like if it was never pulled. The API does have how many times it's been pulled. So you get the API, but it's not in the UI here.
In the UI, yeah. But if you could, even if you could get it from the API and just do your own garbage collection for everything 0, I bet you don't have to do that very often.
Right, and some of these command line tools that we'll show off can help you delete those images there's a command line tool for Docker RM or different command line tools just to say like, hey, remove this image, and you can send it. I want you to delete that from the registry. And as long as your registry supports it, some registries don't allow you to delete remotely. So like Docker Hub didn't originally, or Docker Registry, when you ran it locally, didn't allow it deletes. And so you had to actually specify a configuration and update it from years ago, but now it should be fine. So let's dive into a little bit. I want to show, like I said, Docker Registry. I'm just going to run it here as another example for a registry endpoint. One of the downsides, again, is some of these tools don't support insecure registries, and by default, Docker Registry is going to run without HTTPS. So it's not going to have a cert at all. So some tools require HTTPS for all communication. But I think it worked for a couple things. But it's super simple. Docker run a port I want to expose it on, and then registry is the image. It's an upstream, registry. So I can now look at some of these tools here. The original tool that I always used years ago was Docker LS. And Docker LS was a way to list, repositories from any endpoint or any registry. Another point is none of these tools work with Docker Hub for listing repositories. Because Docker doesn't use the standard API for Docker Hub, you can't list all repositories. And actually in the stream, it was brought up, hey, you can use Docker Search, which is the tool to look for repositories in Docker Hub. So if I do,
that's true, yeah.
So I have Docker Search here, and this will show me any image that has Nginx. Paged, so it's not all of them, but I can see at the top here I have this Nginx, which is the official Nginx builds, and so other commands will work with that, and I'll show this off here in a second. Let's say
the Bitnami Nginx only has 90 stars. I'm surprised.
And I'm pretty sure. No, I guess 13,000 sounds right. I thought. Let's look up. GitHub Nginx. So yeah, it says 10 more than 10,000. So 13,000 is what I saw from the search with 10 million, downloads. So, but let's actually look at where was I? Docker ls. You can install it with brew or various other ways. You can actually run it as a container. So if you don't want to install it at all, you can run a Docker ls container. Here's your aliases. Basically, Docker run and do the thing. So if I do. But in the docs, like I said, it doesn't support upstream Docker registries. So like Docker ls.
It is kind of a dorker too.
Yes. Obviously it has a help, but if I look for repositories, this will give me an error using the upstream repo because it actually tries to use my credentials for it. But I can say, where's the insecure flag? And again, all of these allow insecure. Some use -k, some use source destination insecure. So it's kind of confusing. But core, my Harbor instance is still the same core Harbor domain unsupported. It's like, okay, like some of these things just don't work depending on how your registry is set up. Let's look at ls tags. I think I can just do Nginx. Still auth rejected. No, I can't do that because I have two-factor and I need to get the key. So many things that are just so in authentication in Docker registries. If you've never messed with the Docker config file, if you're using ECR, we have a helper that allows you to do like simpler logins, because otherwise you have to get a key and do a login with pasting that key. Docker, if I look at the Harbor, actually, let me find. I know I had a couple of these commands work properly. This is it. I'm just using the default password here. I gotta copy that over.
So actually like logging in on that command line.
No, auth failed, of course. It's like some of these tools, like I don't understand. Some of them use your Docker registry config inside of whatever you have specified in Docker config. Some of them have their own, like we'll look at Scopio later, has its own configuration for all your registries. And Docker ls doesn't do it. I'm trying to find, was it Reg that did it? I know there's a way to actually get this. There we go. Reg ls. I bet this one works. ln is not a command. ls should be. There we go. So we can see it listed all of my repositories from Harbor. And again, Reg worked with my Docker config. So it looked up my authentication inside of my Docker config, went to the domain. K is an insecure flag, just like curl has. And then it said, here's your repos. I have a busy box. Here's all the tags for that repo. And then here's my other repos that I have. And inside of Harbor, these called, like the namespace is called project and then repos. So, but it went through that whole directory tree and got that for me. And there's also, I can list the tags specifically. Tags. Oh, I'm going to have to like do this every time, aren't I? No, wait. What was one of them? February Fedora. I only have a latest tag, but if I look at BusyBox, you'll get all of the tags from that image. So it's handy because at least from here, I can get some of that information. And let's look at, let's do one Ubuntu. So let's delete one Ubuntu. It deletes that image. So if you have, it deleted in the registry, of course. So it's like, it wasn't a local delete. It was like, no, let me make the calls to the registry, delete that. So if you want a cleanup script that curls through the Harbor API and says, oh, find all of them that had 0 pulls, or find, some other, whatever metric you want. If you only want to keep the latest 10 or something like that, you can go through and do a reg remove and delete those. So that's a handy thing. The other thing I really like that Reg does is it has a server, which gives you a new GUI. Like if you have a local, oh, actually, you know what? I need to push something into here. Let's get it based on core dots. Was it Harbor? Why don't you get my auth for this? That's dumb. Here, let me just copy an image in there. Oh. All these crazy commands. I'm going to show this one in a second. I didn't want to skip ahead to Scopio yet, but I deleted my registry, so I needed to. There we go. Okay, so Reg has a server, which is it's just a web server that shows you your images, basically. And so if I go over here to localhost now, 8081 is the port that I'm already using 8080 for this shell. But you can see it's a super basic. Here's the image that I have. If I click on it, I'll copy it. I can do a search. Jess Frizzelli made Reg. So she actually has, what is it? Reg.co, I think is her registry. No, what is it? Let me look up the help. Because she has a really great, like she has a ton of private images. J3SS, that's it.
Yeah.
So she has a good example because it's her personal registry, but you can see all of the different images that she has in her personal registry, and you can do searches on them for, like, I even think my my MPSYT was the container we showed off on Monday. I had contributed to her Docker file, so it's in here as well, and you can click on it and you can see tags. Actually, that one only has one tag, doesn't it? Let's find something else that might have more. Nope. She probably cleans them up, but it's a really nice, like if you're self-hosting a registry from Docker Registry and you're not doing Harbor or something, very basic server that just allows you to keep, some GUI in front of it, because people want fancy GUIs sometimes.
Speaking of that, I think we have a question that might prove that agent server is not a bot, because he says, is there another way to call the API not by command line? I mean by REST or something? That sounds human.
For sure. The Docker Registry API is very well defined. That's how all of these other registries have been created. That's how Harbor looked at the spec basically and recreated it. So you can just straight curl, endpoints if you have the authentication to be able to get to a registry and get this information. And that's literally what all these command lines are doing, is they're command line clients for the API. So it is using REST under the covers in every case.
That's awesome.
Let me go show. So Reg, like I said, it's pretty basic as far as listing. I can get some information from it. Scopio is a registry tool from Red Hat's, and it does a lot of the similar things that Reg does, like I said, with a couple noticeable differences. One is they actually specify that's probably way too small, huh?
It's okay on my screen, but sound off in chat if this font is too small.
It's gonna catch up, because anytime I'm sharing my screen, it like, oh, here we go. Now we're gonna zoom.
Here we go.
Yeah, that's it.
Why is Bob not allowed was waiting for this exact moment to do that. I love it. Bon Jovi reference. Very good.
Wow, nice. That's amazing. Awesome.
Oh, see, it's still zooming. Stop it. Okay, you can stop now.
So while it's zooming, Denny 1111, my bad, who keeps the creds? And maybe I can answer. It's using your client. It's using like your environment, right? So it's pulling your Docker creds.
Not always. Not always. So that's where it gets tricky, because Docker LS does not. You have to specify your own creds. Reg will look at your Docker config file for whatever creds you have specified for the registry, if you have any. Scopio keeps its own creds outside. They have their own credential management, and they actually have a login command and other things to get access to, a registry, which are completely separate than Docker. So, because Scopio is part of Red Hat's tools that were essentially replacing Docker at the command line. So they have Builda, Scopio, and there's a couple others, and those will all essentially, you don't need Docker installed, so they don't assume that you have a Docker config file in that case. So Scopio as a registry and an image tool tries to do everything itself. And so let's look at just the basic that they have here, which is let's inspect an image. It's using the Docker protocol, and the other options they have are OCI. If you have an OCI image or artifact, such as a Helm chart or a CNAB bundle, or you can do it with flat files. So I can actually say, like, if I have a directory of images, I can get information from the containers in manifest in files. So I can look at, they have a registry that they provide at Fedora Project, and there's a Fedora latest, and let's type that to less for me. And it's just going to spit out all the information that's typically in the manifest file for the container without downloading everything, without extracting everything. It can fetch the manifest and say, oh, here's my tags I have for that, layers and environment, that sort of stuff. And as I showed it off earlier a little bit, they have a really neat copy command. And so if I look at, let's do, well, I guess I should take the last one, huh? I really hate that I can't control C in this thing. So Scopio copy, here's where I'm copying it from, which is my local harbor. And then I was copying it to that other registry. And it creates the registries on push, just like normal Docker Hub. And this one also has 2 flags for verify TLS on my source, and my destination should be false because I don't have valid certs for either one. But I can take anything here as far as what was my box. And one nice thing about this copy is it doesn't Docker if I want to copy images. Oh, it was already, I guess I already had it in the destination. Typically, if you want to do a Docker pull, Docker tag, Docker push, you have to download, you have to extract. It's a lot more steps to actually get an image from one registry to another. And then if I want to like push images into ECR or replicate them some other way, I either rebuild them in push or you're doing some other steps. In this case, these copy commands will just take basically the tar that's in, or all the tars that are in one registry, and just stick them over into the next registry without modification, without retagging, without any extraction. So it goes quite a bit faster. Or at least it should.
Do you know, does it pull everything locally and then push it, or is it like pass it along?
Server side copy for registries has to be supported by the registry itself. So there are registries that do support, hey, copy from this to that on the server side without downloading locally. So if I'm on my phone on, LTE or something, I can still do a server side copy. I don't remember all the registries that support that. I think Quay might. I don't believe ECR does, and Docker Hub doesn't. So it is like an extra thing. It's not part of the standard API. So typically you have to call some other API based on that registry's like specifics of how I want to do a copy. But there are registries that do support that without doing any download. It's just like, hey, take from Docker Hub and send it over there, and it'll do it all server side, which is super nice.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Looking more at Scopio, they have other things. I mean, you have your inspect, like I said, which is just information about the image itself, and then that copy command with other options. So like I said, there's an OCI, which is if you have a non-Docker specific image, OCI works for those other artifacts, and then you can copy it into a directory. So I can just say like, hey, copy all this stuff, pull it down. If I want it locally, if I want to do a cache or something, or whatever reason, you can do a lot with images locally that people don't do often, but occasionally you're like, I need to debug something and I need something because I'm either offline or I don't want to get overwritten by the next, build push.
Yeah. What's an example of an OCI image or OCI artifact versus a Docker image?
Helm charts are probably the biggest one, which is, what people will often, like ECR supports Helm charts. I know we had that on the show a while ago, to be able to say like, hey, it's a registry of artifacts essentially. And a lot of other things are starting to be defined by this sort of format of like, what's the thing? What is some information about tags and how do I run it or extract it?
That's an interesting thing that W. Shari brings up. One issue I faced with Scopio is the image hash has changed when copying it to the local registry. It could have been the way how zero size layers are consolidated.
Yeah, there is differences on those hashes from registry to registry. So it's if you do a copy, you have to change your Docker file to get the new SHA. I don't remember the exact details of how that is calculated, but I do know that's for sure a thing.
I wonder if time is an element and recopying it causes, that to change it. I don't know. That's really strange. I wouldn't have expected that.
You would expect a direct copy to have the same SHAs because the contents don't change.
Right.
But the SHAs for layers are more than just the contents because there is metadata for the entire image at least because the image does have information, that has the config file essentially for how to run the image.
Yeah.
So Scopio, just like Reg, has a delete. And like I said, they have their own login for, it's not using Docker config. So you will have to do a separate login if you want to use it in something like, will the credential helper work? I don't believe so with Scopio. I don't remember the exact config, but I don't think that it will. You're going to have to do like the AWS ECR get login, which gives you a giant string for a temporary login, and then you have to paste that into the password field for Scopio.
And that'll last you 12 hours, if I'm remembering correctly. And then you'd have to log in again.
Yeah,
so,
and your user in that case is always AWS, right? Like your user is AWS, and then you'll have some long string that is will be invalidated after some point.
Yeah, and the command below, using creds directly, if you were going to like script this and make it be part of some kind of pipeline or build or something like that, you could probably put in command substitution to run AWS ECR get login password.
Right. You could store a variable of what your credential key is or something, or your token, and then pass that along.
Yeah.
And I want to show, let's see, I want to do it with Quay because that's another, pretty popular open source, it is open source now, but it's also a hosted service. So we should be able to, let's try to copy this. And I want to try it into my the other registry just to see if this works. Or I need like I said, this one, Scopio requires a protocol essentially. Yeah, so that it's going to take those layers and stick them over into Harbor, which is super handy. And so that also leads us to some of the things. Another tool is called Crane, which has, again, a lot of similar things. They actually don't have a lot of usage examples here, but we can see them from the help here. Which has, again, it has its own auth for outside of Docker config. I think this one is a little more standard with how Docker does credentials because they're not replacing all Docker commands, but it does do some other things based on how you authenticate to endpoints. But it also, just like it has a delete, it has an ls, it has tag. I like that it has a rebase, which is kind of neat because you can actually just take that image and just layer it on top of this other image. So if you have, say, your application that's built on Nginx, you can just, if you push a new Nginx, you could just say, hey, rebase my app on the latest Nginx. And you don't need to actually do local rebuilds and all this other stuff. It's a really fascinating way because they're all just layers. And those layers are built on the file system. You say, hey, take new Nginx and put my app on top of it without doing local rebuilds. So it's a really fascinating, how you can do things with these other,
That would
from
be
the registry
really,
itself.
That is.
yeah, that would be really cool to do. And I'm thinking back to your Legos, talk when you were explaining the layers. Yeah, just swapping out the bottom Lego for, a new Lego. You would have, like, your image would have to be built in such a way that, it is completely compartmentalized from one layer to the next like that. But that's probably going to be the case most of the time.
I'm trying to remember some of the other commands I was able to do with Crane. I mean, a lot of them are similar. Like I said, they have an ls, they have tags, they have copy. Reg and Docker ls are specifically about kind of discovery and finding what tags are there, and doing a little bit of management with deletes. And then Scopio and Crane do some more advanced features on top of it, which is pretty neat. And then the other thing I wanted to show off that I didn't get a chance to look it up ahead of time, but there's I'm trying to remember the name of it now. There's a registry that will build your images on the fly. And so you can pull an image, and it's not actually stored in the registry. It just like downloads and compiles it at the same time. Gosh, I cannot remember the name of it now. Someone in chat remembers what it's called. It would be super helpful. Otherwise, I'm going to do a little bit of Googling of my GitHub stars. Oh, that was the other one. I can show off this one too. I love
doing it live.
Yeah, doing it live because I had so much trouble getting some of the stuff to work that I didn't get to do everything. Watchtower is super handy if you have like a small environment with just a couple containers. I run this at home. And so with my containers at home, Watchtower will look at your images that you're currently running and always keep it up to date based on a cron. So it's like, hey, if a new one downloads, like just download the next one and replace it. And it's super handy to do locally. It's kind of that, like, it does stuff with the registry and it does stuff with your local images and you run it as a container. So it's you mount the Docker sockets. Excuse me. You mount the Docker socket, run Watchtower. My Legos, yes.
Man, Alex Smasha is like
that's on top
of
it.
The best intern we've ever had, I have to say. Awesome. Thank you so much. Watchtower reminds me, there's a feature that ties together ECR plus code pipeline, I think. And you can kick off builds when an upstream container is pushed. So like you might have, if you're a part of a service team, you might have your portion, where you're building your code and all that stuff, but your container build might start with from whatever upstream, image that my company builds for me. And when that gets pushed, you can have code pipeline also kick off an image build.
OpenShift does that with what's called image streams. And so you can have a dependency graph of your images, and those dependencies will kick off. So if I have, if there's upstream Nginx, and then I have an internal team that says like hardened Nginx, and then I have an app team that builds an app on top of it, the image stream can actually, you declare those dependencies as objects inside of OpenShift. And there's a controller that says, hey, I saw the upstream Nginx tag got pushed. It's the latest is now a new version, which will trigger the next, downstream container, or all of the downstream containers, which will then trigger all of the other downstream containers from that one, which is a handy way to break things in production, but also a great way to
things at scale.
Right, but keeping test environments or local environments up to date is a lot easier, because then I can say, okay, maybe don't do this in prod all the time, but being able to say, I want my test environment to always be up to date and not think about all the other downstream, images. And so two jobs ago, I was in charge of making all of our base images for everyone else to use. So I took upstream images, I created a new base, I pushed them into our internal registries, and then developers use those to build their apps. And so it was a super easy way to say like, hey, I don't want to send an email every time I build a new image. So email is a terrible API. So yeah, it's like, I don't know what the equivalent of, like, I mean, that's like human rest. That's like sleeping. I don't know. Like what is an email acronym for an API? Just bad. But that was,
yeah, I can't even think. It would be like the worst queue service ever. I'll get to that someday.
I mean, eventually consistent, right? Like that's like the the fundamental there of like, yeah, someday someone will see this in their email and update their downstream containers. So there are ways, like you said, with the code build tools as well to say like, hey, if upstream changes, push that down, rebase my stuff. Image streams and Watchtower are also options.
Nice. W. Shari also mentions that he loves image streams because it makes the local URLs smaller also.
How does it do that?
I don't know, but I had the question of like, I get convenience, I get readability maybe, but smaller might also make it harder to read and understand. But like, don't you normally just put the Docker image, URL or whatever in a config or something? Like I don't find myself typing on the command line, Docker image paths that often,
For me, I go through phases of I experiment and I explore a container, and that's when I'm typing a URL a lot. I'm like, hey, I found a new tool or a new container. I want to see how it run it. I want to experiment with it locally. And then I'm going to move to like, okay, now I create images based on that for whatever my use case is. And then I'm pushing that into my own registry, which gives it a new URL. So that first phase of experimenting and learning, I'll type it a lot, but, and I mean, in my current role, I do a lot more experimentation than I do pushing to registries. And so like learning the tools and understanding that side of it has happened a lot more than, I don't want to say more, because when I first was starting to use containers, like they were new and I did a lot of experimentation.
Is custom URLs something that the audience would like to have in a feature of ECR, like as a feature of ECR? I'm just curious. I would love to hear some feedback on that. Because then you'd at least be able to shorten the domain portion of the container name.
Right, because you have your region and account, and so if you could customize that would be. There is isn't there a open the GitHub roadmap for that? I thought there was.
I think there could be. Yeah. I just wanted to find out from here if if that was something that people would like really be excited about, or is it like, yeah, I'd use that maybe.
There is. Look at that.
Oh, we can't see it.
I pasted it in chat. You can go there and follow along because there is a proposal for that. I remembered.
Issue 299.
Yep.
Sweet.
So give a +1 on that, or subscribe to it for updates if that, it helps us for understanding, users that are trying to do a thing. Absolutely go in and add a little +1 to, to that first topic. And it just gives us a baseline of like, hey, look, we have, 100 people that want this, that just at least showed us on this project roadmap, which is handy.
Exactly. That's awesome. All right, Adam, you've been awfully quiet. You've probably been compiling Bon Jovi songs.
I've just been listening. Justin's been doing great, but actually, secretly in the background, I am playing with CDK too. But I did want to just say there was one Bon Jovi reference. We were talking about songs related to services, and I thought for Spot, Living on a Prayer by Bon Jovi, that was another one that came to mind.
Nice. Sorry. Nice.
Continue on. Always cooking.
Always cooking. That's right. Cooking something.
And so, I mean, those were the main tools I was, wanted to show off. I am curious if anyone in the chat like has something else they're trying to do with registries specifically that, is either a pain point or they're looking for a tool or some solution. And also, what are people using? Like, are people usually using something self-hosted inside of Kubernetes, something like Harbor, or is everyone on ECR or Docker Hub? There's a lot of options, and I know like large companies might have centralized container registries for whether Quay or something like that, and then there's a lot of like smaller shops that's just like it's not something we really have to think about because we just always use Docker Hub or ECR.
Right. Yeah, let us know. What do you use? Also, let's recap real quick. Like, what are the functions that we kind of went over today? We went over exploring, finding the list of images and tags in a registry. We looked at copying either locally or from one registry to another, deleting. And then, we kind of talked more about the possibility of either mirroring using a tool like Harbor, or pull through cache, possibly using a tool like Harbor.
Or just a copy on a cron, right? Like you could do that
Yeah,
too.
yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I mean, let us know what do you guys do with registries that you find to be annoying or to be easy, and how did you solve the problems that you have, or is everyone using Docker Hub?
Yeah, and there are, like, to your point of recap, like there are some specifics in how tools implement things. Specifically, auth and insecure registries is typically the two things that are going to be a problem if you're self-hosting something, especially without trusted certificates. Reg server is great if you have something small, you're running it locally, or in a home lab or something. And then inspecting actual manifest from containers is pretty handy sometimes for. I need to actually see what's in this config, how does it run, what are the tags, that sort of stuff isn't always discoverable from some registries. So being able to do that in the command line, grep out what you're looking for, and then running with it is handy.
I love this name, by the way. Sergeant Dammit is
Saint Dammit,
Saint
Street
Dammit.
Dammit,
Okay,
Street.
I was going Sergeant, but yeah, Saint could be good too. It is quite popular, the GitLab container registry. So yeah, I actually do hear a lot of people using GitLab. They use it for CI, with GitLab runners and stuff, and then
It works great if your code's in GitLab and you just host it there. And I don't know, is anyone using the GitHub? Has a
oh, that's right, yeah,
registry as well. So we SSM Helpers was a tool that I helped open source, and we went with GitHub opened, it was like a month before, said, hey, we have a container registry now. And so we went with that because GitHub Actions just worked with the registry. The exact same thing if you have GitLab on-prem, where you're just saying, oh, well, I just want to publish this. And I loved GitLab actually had a special feature where it allowed multiple namespace. So instead of just one namespace and then your repo, you can have two. And it helped with organizational structure, because you can say,
right.
oh, my team is operators, but above that is like platform engineering or something. So you'd have like platform engineering under GitLab, and then we have an SRE group, and then we have their container projects. And I loved GitLab allowed that, which some other registries only allow one namespace or none.
Totally. W. Shari says mostly Quay, ECR, GCR, ACR. That's interesting. I mean, cool. I'm a little surprised when someone doesn't throw Docker Hub into a list like that, because that sounds like all the common cloud providers, but I build everything myself is what I'm getting from that kind of response. That's interesting. And then he wants to know, what are the popular security image scanning tools other than Claire, Trivia, and Anchor? I don't know, Claire and Trivia, and then Anchor. I know. Oh wait, what's the one? I actually demoed this, and now I'm forgetting the name. There's another that's commercial. They do more than just image scanning. They do like all kinds of security stuff. I can't think of the name of it.
Not Aqua. Are you thinking
I
of
think
Aqua?
yeah, Aquasec. Yeah, that's the one I'm thinking of. So they do image scanning. I did a kind of demo where we scanned some things with Claire, we scanned some things with Aqua, and I think I had a third one in the mix that I don't remember what it was, and they all came back with different results. So it's might be good to actually have more than one scanner if you can manage that. The one thing I would like to have in a registry is more metadata or labels. In the case of now, I'm asking specifically about ECR. Would more tags be that? Like, is that what you would count as metadata and labels, or are you thinking like something actually in the image metadata that you'd be able to embed. And Gluescap says, does anyone know what is the registry Justin was talking about? The one that doesn't store images but build on demand, freshly served every time?
Yes, I found it. Nixery is Nixery Dev. And so it was a project based on Nix Package Manager. Nix OS is a Linux distro that has really interesting ideas around how to package applications so that you can install multiple versions and never basically overlap them. And so Nixery was a example of how to basically layer on some of the stuff on the fly for things like Docker containers. So it keeps these layers and auto generates based on the layers and what packages it has installed your images. So it was a fascinating way to be able to just, you don't actually need to build and push certain things. You can kind of reshare and rebuild. So like one of their quick start examples is, let me get over to my terminal. So we have this htop, which is going to pull a ton of layers because it's actually building this container on the fly, right? You look at normal containers are going to have a few layers. Some of the advanced ones will have like a dozen. This is going to have a lot of layers, but it's actually going to find this, this base shell, and it's going to install git and htop. And so those two commands are going to be installed in my container when I run it. And so if
How big does this image end up being for you, though? I mean, I see a lot of layers, and I think huge in size.
Where'd you go? Oh my gosh, I have so many.
I think it was near the bottom.
Yeah, you're right. 292. So it's not it's still taking a small base and then it's layering on simple tools on top of it. But then I can Docker run IT rm, and I think my default I probably have to specify a shell commands. But now, so again, this is taking some base image and it installed git and installed htop, and that's all it installed. And so my image was made on the fly with those two tools based on the image path that I specified. And so they even have some grouping based on, I want common dev tools or I want Go or something like that. You could have it install on the fly, and it's not actually compiling the stuff. It's just finding those layers of packages and then shoving them out to you as an artifact.
Awesome. I think this has been a good show. I think we've looked at a lot of tools. We've kind of explored. I feel like we answered some questions. I have more questions. I'm gonna have to go check out Nixery now. That one is brand new to me. So I think there's a lot to explore here and a lot to continue to look at. What are we doing tomorrow, Adam?
So tomorrow
we need Van Halen songs for tomorrow, by the way.
Absolutely. I'm glad to do it. I quite a few there too. But the one that comes to mind is Hot for Teacher, and I can't think of any reference that makes sense there. So I'm going to just let that one go, but I had to say it anyway.
Good. Yeah.
So tomorrow we are going to talk CDK. So in the CDK 1.65, we released EKS and a lot of developer preview functionality with EKS. So we're going to build a cluster. We're going to build some Helm charts. We're going to do it all live. It's going to be really cool. And it's going to be fun.
Sounds ambitious. I'm excited. I can't wait to see it. I know you can do it. I'm not implying that, but let's see how it goes. All right. Thanks everyone for joining, and we'll see you tomorrow.